Consciousness affects reality, repetition, and consolidation of experience. Dr. Joe Dispenza was one of the first who began to study the influence of consciousness on reality from a scientific point of view. His theory of the relationship between matter and consciousness brought him world fame after the release of his documentary, We Know What the Signal Does. A key discovery made by Joe Dispenza is that the brain does not distinguish between physical and mental experiences. Roughly speaking, the cells of the gray matter absolutely do not distinguish between real, hence material, from the imaginary, hence from thoughts. Few people know that the doctor's research in the field of consciousness and neurophysiology began with tragic experience. After Joe Dispenza was hit by a car, doctors suggested he fasten the damaged vertebrae with an implant, which could absolutely lead to lifelong pain. Only with this way, according to doctors, could he walk again. But Dispenza decided to quit taking out traditional medicine and restore his health with the power of thought. After only 9 months of therapy, Dispenza could walk again, and this was the impetus for the study of the possibilities of consciousness. The first step in this direction was communication with people who experienced the experience of spontaneous remission, quote unquote. This is a spontaneous and impossible from the point of view of doctors healing a person from a serious illness without the use of traditional treatment. During the survey, Dispenza found out that all people who went through a similar experience were convinced that thought is primarily in relation to matter and can heal any disease. The theory of Dr. Dispenza claims that each time experiencing some kind of experience, we activate a huge number of neurons in our brain, which in turn affect our physical condition. It's the phenomenal power of consciousness due to the ability to concentrate that creates the so-called synaptic connections between neurons. Repeated experiences like situations, thoughts, feelings create stable neural connections called neural networks. Each network is in fact a certain memory on the basis of which our body in the future reacts to similar objects and situations. According to Dispenza, our entire past is recorded in the neural networks of the brain, which form the way we perceive and feel the world as a whole and its specific objects in particular. Thus, it only seems to us that our reactions are spontaneous. In fact, most of them are programmed with stable neural connections. Each object stimulus activates one or another neural network, which in turn causes a set of certain chemical reactions in the body. These chemical reactions make us act or feel in a certain way, to run or freeze in place, rejoice or be upset, become excited or fall into apathy, etc. All our emotional reactions are nothing more than the result of chemical processes caused by established neural networks, and they're based on past experience. In other words, the basic rule of neurophysiology is nerves that are used together are connected. This means that neural networks are formed as a result of repetition and consolidation of experience. If the experiment is not reproduced for a long time, then the neural networks break up. Thus, a habit is formed as a result of regular pressing the buttons of the same neural network. This is how automatic reactions and conditional reflexes are formed. You have not yet had time to think and realize what's happening, and your body is already reacting in a certain way. Our character, our habits, our personality are just a set of stable neuron networks that we can weaken or strengthen at any time thanks to a conscious perception of reality. By focusing consciously and selectively on what we want to achieve, we're creating new neural networks. Previously, scientists believed that the brain is static, but studies by neurophysiologists show that absolutely every smallest experience produces thousands and millions of neural changes in it that affect the body as a whole. In his book, The Evolution of Our Brains, The Science of Changing Our Consciousness, Joe Dispenza asked a logical question. If we use our thinking to cause certain negative states in the body, Will this anomalous state eventually become the norm? Dispenza conducted a special experiment to confirm the capabilities of our consciousness. People from the same group daily pressed the spring mechanism with the same finger for an hour, and people from another group had only to imagine that they were clicking. As a result, the fingers of people from the first group got stronger by 30% and from the second by 22%. Such an influence of purely mental practice on physical parameters is the result of the operation of neural networks. So Joe Dispenza proved that for the brain and neurons there is no difference between real and mental experience. So if we pay attention to negative thoughts, our brain perceives them as reality and causes corresponding changes in the body. For example, illness, fear, depression, a surge of aggression, etc. Another conclusion from Dispenza's research concerns our emotions. Stable neural networks form unconscious patterns of emotional behavior, hence a tendency to some form of emotional response. In turn, this leads to a repeated experience in life. We step on the same rake only because we do not realize the reason for their appearance. But the reason is simple. Each emotion is felt due to the release of a certain set of chemicals in the body, into the body, and our body simply becomes somewhat dependent on these chemical combinations. Having realized this dependence as a physiological dependence on chemicals, we get rid of it. Only a conscious approach is needed. Of course, despite the study of Dispenza, official science is distrustful of his claims. But why wait for official approval from scientific minds if now the results of these discoveries can be applied in practice? The main thing is to realize that thought is capable of changing the physical world. We know that mind science also has proven this from experiments. Our thoughts can even affect solar activity and even Earth activity. This is from Solas. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.